You get to this time of year, early summer, and it's all about the tarpon. That's right. Big shout out to my friends over there at the Bait Depot in Pasco County. They're always a big help to me this time of year and a must stop before I hit the tarpon grounds. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about tarpon leader setups. That's right. The past few weeks we've been doing a lot of tarpon tips here at FlatsClass YouTube, and that's going to continue, honestly, because I know a lot of you are excited about it this year. But with as many people that has been out there, and with the lack of rain and the water being so clear, it's gotten really tough to get hooked up early in the season, really fighting for bites. One of the ways I have found to mitigate how tough it's been is lightening up a little bit. I'll tell you what I mean after this. Let's go over here. To give you a little contrast, or even context, I should really say, when I first started seriously tarpon fishing, and we're going back, 25 years or so, maybe more, probably more. We were using 80 and 100 pound leaders. That's what we were using, and the leader length, not that long. Honestly, a 5 or a 6 foot leader was a really long leader. As things have come along over time, and there are more folks pressuring the fish, the internet came along, social media came along, and technology got a lot better with electronics like Raymarine, where you have all kinds of side vision and stuff now. Now the fish are a little more savvy. They see more, they feel more, they're pressured more, period. And currently we have a big drought here in the state of Florida, so we don't have that off color or stained water that we typically see this time of year. So the water's really clean and clear. There's more of you chasing fish than ever before. The Silver King has just got into everybody's head. It's a fever. I've even seen anglers utilizing drones on the beach. I don't think any of that matters if you don't have a good understanding on how you're going to catch these fish. So this year it's been a lot more of the leads to the fish have to be a lot longer. What do I mean by that? Your cast has to be much further in front of the anticipated path of the fish. It can't be like 15 or 20 feet. Now it has to be 30 to 40 feet out in front of them, which leaves a little room for error if they vector one way or the other. But more importantly, the leaders, well, they got to be longer. In fact, everything has got to kind of shrink in size. Now, a lot of you that have been watching the videos on throwing artificial lures to the fish and things like that, I'm using pretty light gear, 7.5 foot medium heavy to heavy action rods, depending if it's bait casting or spinning, with 6,000 size spinning reels. But honestly, most of the clientele for me are going to be throwing past crabs, 5 and 6 inch long pinfish, if not bigger, and maybe thread fins if we want to jiggle up a few thread fins. But most of them I'm throwing on the rod that I talked and my guys will put a video link down below for those interested in live bait tarpon rod setups. But this is an extra heavy 8 foot Terramar XX, and it's mated up with an 8,000 Saragossa reel. And you've heard me talk about this reel before and all the benefits and features to using something like this as far as line capacity and max drag. But what I'm really here to talk about is I've downsized to 30 pound Power Pro Super Slick line now. I have one rod that I have the marine blue on. On this rod I'm trying onyx just to see if it will be a little bit more invisible to the fish. I'm really starting to make my leaders super long too. You know, we talked about that. Now I'm making my leaders, honestly, like 9 to 10 feet long. So I'm using, in fact, I pulled the spool out here. Let me grab it for you. So I'm tying on a good 7.5 feet of this, which is just 40-pound Seaguar Gold, 40-pound fluorocarbon. That's it. Tie about 7.5 feet of that on. Now, the gold label is thinner, so it's probably the equivalent of maybe, I'm gonna say 30-pound Seaguar inshore. So it's pretty light. And it gives the crab or the pinfish a lot more freedom to move underneath the float. So you're like, well, you're gonna lose every fish. And you would be correct, I would lose a lot of them. But what I'm doing is I'm blood knotting, if you will, right here. I'm blood knotting a piece of 50, sometimes 60, onto a smaller, happens to be a Trocar 5/0, but I also use a lot of the 7/0 BKK or even the 6/0 BKK super slides. But by having this lighter setup and only having a bite tippet of maybe 1.5 feet to handle the business end of this tarpon, I'm finding that the crabs are a little easier pulling this around, especially with the longer leader length. And even if you have a thread fin or maybe, and you can always put like a glow bead to keep from double hooking a pinfish or a thread fin on these hooks, and that way you won't double hook the bait and cost yourself a bite. But also I go ahead and, if you'll look here, I'll even show you this too. I bimini up here just so I can make this line a little thick. So I got a small bimini. This is more of a no-name knot right here that you're looking at. So I've got this extensive, long, technical leader now to bait fish. Now, if I were going to chunk bait fish at the Skyway Bridge down in Tampa Bay, or some place that you might know how to do that, or if I were going to shad fish on the bottom or fish cut mullet down in the Keys, you know, this wouldn't be necessary. But because we're more or less sight fishing with live bait, we're not putting these baits out into the water, because if I put them out there, you're going to catch every shark that comes by. And quite honestly, I don't want people knowing how we're fishing the fish. So I keep all this stuff like in the water, holding the bait next to the boat. And then when I see the string of fish or the squadron, hopefully the meatball of tarpon coming, I want to make sure that my anglers are making a long cast with this 30-pound, which is not going to reflect light as much, and it's going to offer, because of its limpness, a lot longer cast. It may only be over 40 or 50-pound braid. It might be an extra 20 feet, but 20 feet sometimes is a distance whether you can make a long enough cast or not. So they're making these longer casts, and then I can direct them from the polling platform, reel it back, reel it back, reel it back, and in the anticipated lane that the fish are coming through. So I may have one angler throw long, and then one angler, because typically I have two, throw short. Even if I don't have two anglers, I myself would throw a rod and maybe throw it short. That way we're not trying to make these precision casts anymore like we used to. We're trying to just to lay a spread out in front of them to hopefully get in the lane enough that a tarpon would see that crab swimming and clicking and making noise, looking pretty natural, or that pinfish that's hooked in the shoulder is digging like this, and one will come out and eat them. Now, as clear as the water has been, I'm not going to lie to you, that's been tough. But this setup here has been helpful to get a couple of extra bites every day. Because believe it or not, every bite does not turn into a landed fish next to this skiff. It usually takes 2, 3, 4 bites some days to get a fish laid up next side of the skiff to make a dream come true. Anyhow, I thought this little stealthy tip on finesse leaders for these tarpon would help you guys out this tarpon season, especially this early on in the tarpon season. That'll probably carry through to about mid-July or so before it starts to get weak. So if it's helping you, go ahead, subscribe, push that button. Also tell your friends, share this channel. It's my job to make all of you not only better tarpon anglers, but inshore anglers in general.